All right. Hello, everyone. And if you can see the screen, if you can see the presentation, and if you can hear me well, please type in the chat. I can see that we already have a lot of participants from all over Ukraine. And as usual, it inspires me a lot and uh, really inspires to keep going with all the webinars. Great, great. We have a lot of pluses, so I close the chat down and let's start. So today's topic is teach students to own the language. My name is Tetiana Shalepko. I am Cambridge ELT consultant for the Linguist LLC. And today we will be talking about um, students' autonomy, students' collaboration, and so on. Before we go, I will just remind you that Cambridge University Press official distributor is the Linguist Company in Ukraine, and the Linguist Company is 18 years on the market. It has a lot of study materials and a special exclusive partnership program. And the Linguist Company provided almost 1 million students with learning materials. It has a lot of personal offers for the clients, and we provide a lot of webinars each year, and we keep going with that. So stay tuned and follow us on our social media. Not only English that we work with, but a lot of other languages and other subjects. So if you're interested in more or your colleagues are, please inform them about us and let them know that we can provide a lot of services, not only books. And today we are talking about teaching students to own the language, and the main idea of owning the language is encouraging students' autonomy. These materials are partly provided by Samantha Lewis, our one of the Cambridge speakers, and I will retell you a few ideas about how you can encourage students' autonomy. Uh, Today, we are going to look at the ways of encouraging learners' autonomy in the classroom in order to making learning better and more effective. The more responsibility our learners take and more interest they have in their own language, in their own learning, and in their own preparation process, the more personalized it is, the better learning will be. So we will identify some of the life skills that will enable them to get a better understanding of their learning and take control of their learning, and then look at some practical ways that we as teachers can provide and facilitate in this classroom. So look at this quote. Please read the quote now. I give you a few seconds. Okay, ready? Now I will ask you to type in the chat to continue this sentence. Autonomous learners, what they do, what they are. Okay, take responsibility, do their own research, can control the process, responsible for education, learn by themselves, motivation, yes. Okay. Make decisions, they're creative. Wow, great. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at what I have on my slide. So autonomous learners play an active role in their learning. To play a more active role in their own learning is important, and it is important to be more involved in the whole learning process. Then someone was mentioning making decisions, to make decisions about their learning in order to make their learning more personalized and focused, and therefore more relevant to their needs. And that is one of the most important things, of course. And I'm not sure you mentioned this in the chat, but it is to be an autonomous learners. It is important to reflect on your own learning and evaluate how successful your learning has been, and based on this reflection decide what the next steps in the learning process should be. So these are the main three ideas of being an autonomous learner. And when we think about autonomous learners, let's think about what actually our teenagers are. We do not just teach English, we teach more skills. We are helping our learners to develop all sorts of skills like creativity, critical thinking, and more. These are the skills that we'll be developing in other school subjects as well. And they are not only specific for the language, and I'm sure you know about it, but they are relevant in the language learning in their own way. And we are helping our learners to become effective, autonomous, 21st century global learners. So, what are these skills? Some of them I just named, and maybe you can write down a little bit more. What are these global skills? Yeah, people are writing soft skills. Most probably you can see that they are already on the slide. This is critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and we all know them as 4C rule. And there is also digital literacy, there is also emotional development, there is also learning to learn and social responsibility. So I just keep repeating these skills all the time because it makes a lot of sense that we internalize the idea of teaching these things first. And where do we start? Where do we start with that? Uh, Cambridge Cambridge has developed a framework which divides these 21st century skills, and our teenagers are divided into two broad categories: thinking and learning skills and social and emotional skills. So you can see here thinking and learning skills. These are creativity, critical thinking, digital literacy, and learning to learn. And social emotional skills are communication, collaboration, emotional development, and social responsibilities. Different course books may integrate the life skills into the course by breaking them down and including specific activities that learners can do to develop the skills. All of these areas play a role in making our learners more effective learners. But in terms of developing learner autonomy, we need to focus on three skills today. The life skills we will look at will be relevant to a language learning context, and those which our learners need most guidance with from us in order to develop their autonomy. So learning to learn, critical thinking, and collaboration. These are the three skills that focus on learner autonomy. These areas are in this diagram, as they do overlap, and they are all highly relevant in terms of developing learner autonomy, and many activities involve using more than one skill at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive. So thinking back to what we said about learner autonomy, by developing learning to learn skills, we enable our learners to become more aware of their learning preferences and strategies that work best for them and take control of their learning. By thinking critically, learners think about themselves, which means they are better equipped to make decisions about their learning and reflect critically and evaluate the success of their own learning. And this is something we mentioned about students' ability to reflect on their learning. And by developing effective collaboration skills, learners are taking an active role in their learning and will learn how to work together, learn from each other, rely less on the teacher, and become more independent learners. All these skills contribute to create a classroom where the teacher is a facilitator of learning rather than instructor. Okay, so we are going to the first one, learning to learn. In order to help students learn how to learn, we can set up and maintain good or effective learning habits in the classroom. These are habits of the use of learning strategies that enable learners to take control of their own learning. For example, how to organize their notes, how to record and recycle new language, how to best approach a text, or how to reflect and evaluate their own learning. It is not enough to introduce our learners to these strategies just once and expect them to use these strategies and if we do expect them to use these strategies, we need to introduce them gradually and guide them how to use these strategies over and over again until they are able to use them automatically and choose the ones that best suit their own individual needs and learning style. Like we need to create this habit of using the strategy. For example, you could show your students different ways to record vocabulary, which could be recording with pictures, making word roses or mind maps, grouping words in the tables or graphic organizers, or recording pairs of words with similar or opposite meanings, using words in the sentence, or even writing translation and transcription. Then, as your learners try out and become familiar with the different techniques, they are more able to choose which one would be the most appropriate to use to record a particular vocabulary item. And for different topics, they might use very different ways of recording. For different topics, they can use different groups of vocabulary records. Like for body, they might use the pictures, and for more abstract topics like protection of environment, they might make mind maps and so on. Every learner is different and will find the way and ideas that work better for them than for others. In order to help students become aware of their preferred learning styles, they first need the exposure to the different ideas and strategies and need to try them out and reflect on them before they decide which ones are most relevant or work best for them. So let's have a look at this learning to learn idea. Developing learning to learn, I would like you now to continue the sentence. So effective learners, what do they do? Okay, we have here different ideas. Practice a lot, do all the learning, and learn themselves, have results, collaboration, understanding, participate, they're involved. Um, it's very interesting to read your ideas, but learning to learn is very much not about the result of learning. Uh, it is important in the learning to learn. It is important to reflect on your success, of course, but um, we need to switch our mindset a little bit from in this particular kinds of tasks. We need to switch our mindset from us being instructors and being the most responsible in the classroom to us being facilitators and let students emerge, not participate, not get involved in something that has been created for them, but to be responsible for this process. And some of you wrote that effective learners learn. And that's the main idea. Effective learners do all the work. I really like this word work because work is about everyday process. Work is about habits. Of course, we are moving towards the results, but our focus should be on the day-to-day work to reach these results because having results in mind might be a little bit frustrating, and this is what we can see from all the social processes around us. We want the result, but sometimes we do not do the work to reach this result. This is something we see a lot in daily life, in public relations, in politics. Like there is something we want to reach, but the work is the day-to-day thing. And as long as we focus on our day-to-day thing better and look at these strategies, we reach the results better. So, moving on. Um, on this slide, I'm talking about target and emergent language, record and recycle. One area in which we can get learners doing most of the work is with new language, both target and emergent language. Just to be specific, target language is the specific language selected to be introduced during the class, which could come from a number of sources like reading texts, vocabulary exercises, videos, often a lexical set or related words. And emergent language is all the language that learners ask for during a class, and this might be unknown language that crops up as a result of other activities, usually unrelated words. Very interesting language to focus on, as it's the language students actually want to learn because they've either asked for the language or they need the language in order to complete the task they are working on. And here you can see 3 habits that we can use with the learners to capture and recycle new language. So 3 before me. This is the rule we can establish in the class. Instead of the teacher becoming a walking dictionary, when learners ask for the new words, they first have to have asked 3 other people before the teacher. This benefits all students, as the ones who are asked get the opportunity to recycle words. They have learned to develop the skill of explaining the meaning to their peers, and the student who learns the word is learning from their peers and developing ways of becoming a more independent learner. Then your new word. New items of emergent language are recorded on the board, for example, and built up during the class. It's important to record these words as these are the words the students want to learn. Habits you can set up are getting learners to select the new words for them from today's board and build up their own personal dictionary. They will also need to select the best ways to record the meaning, for example, picture or definition in an example sentence, or etc. The habit is a way of personalizing the language in the classroom and helping learners develop different strategies for recording the language. And finally, vocabulary cards and bags. One very effective way to record and recycle new language with the teenagers is with vocabulary cards still. They are very simple to make, students generated, and can then be used by the class for different games and activities throughout the school year. For example, these are vocabulary cards generated by students, and everything the teacher needs is to cut the pieces of paper. Or here is another example. And here we do not use the specific definitions from the dictionary, but we allow students to make their own little discovery, their own personal association. And then we can use these cards to play traditional games that students like Pictionary, miming, bingo in a way. They can also be used to develop other skills such as comparing, making connections between words and ideas and creativity, like take two sets of cards to compare, find the differences and similarities, or take a selection and group them according to the criteria that students choose and justify on their own, like put them in alphabetical order or in the countable, uncountable, and so on. Adjectives, nouns. In terms of creativity, students can choose 3 cards and give them to another group who have to incorporate them in a story, for example. And I've shown you these activities before this webinar many times. So developing learning to learn. Effective learners do all the work, all the day-to-day work. What we need to do is introduce these strategies that students might need. So our aim is to help learners become autonomous, and in order to do that, they need to make decisions about which strategies will help them approach each task in the most effective way. As we said earlier, we need to introduce students to a range of learn-to-learn techniques gradually and guide them how to use them over and over again until they are able to use them automatically and select the ones that best suit their individual needs and learning styles. So, as we said, showing them a range of ways to record vocabulary and then getting them to identify which one would be most appropriate to use for a certain set of lexical items until they're able to select an appropriate technique independently and use it in their future learning and even professional work. Yeah, so effective learners use a variety of learning to learn techniques. And let's have a look at this particular task. This is the strategy you don't often see developed in the course books, which is to learn how to work in pairs. There's an obvious overlap with collaboration. So with an activity like this, you are also developing learning to learn and collaboration life skills at the same time. The exercise is for low-level learners, but it encourages them to think about good habits for working with a partner in the classroom. The second exercise, here it is. The second exercise encourages them to work together with their partner and actually listen to each other and evaluate what they have communicated to each other, what they have communicated to each other in order to complete the task that you can see. And an important stage of this pair work or a group work or a group discussion activity is to evaluate what they have said to each other and report back to the class justifying their reasons. So, to continue with, developing learning to learn also includes that effective learners can identify goals and reflect. And those of you who have written that students need to be focused on the results are, of course, not wrong at all. But the idea here is to start from, not from putting all the pressure of the results on the students, but to give them strategies and to show little by little how the moving towards the results is developed, how you can approach little by little really big things, and to lower the pressure, we need to do this daily work. So two skills that we can develop in order to encourage learning autonomy is identifying goals and reflection. If students are involved in setting their own objectives, they are more likely to work hard to achieve them as they are personalizing the learning process. These could be first, something as simple as giving a choice of activities to do in the certain class. Or in the longer term, asking students to choose what they would like to focus on and learn during the course. Or this could be to involve students identifying that language or skills they need to complete a certain task that then and then reflecting and then reflecting on how well they used these strategies towards the task afterwards. So in terms of reflection, the idea here is that we don't just learn from an experience, but by reflecting on the experience. Learners need help and guidance with both of the skills. And what we can do as teachers is to ensure that the time is factored into our planning or goals and then become an integral part of the learning process. So that our plans meet with students' plans and they meet at some point where students really feel that they are responsible for those plans in their learning, not just the teacher showing them that we are moving towards this particular result. Okay. And one of the activities, most probably you've seen it, but this is a very simple way to personalize what students want to learn and reflect on in their learning and afterwards. It can be used as a start of a new unit of a course book or at the start of the project and then again in the end. KWL charts are used extensively in mainstream education and how it works. First, learners think about the topic and write down what they already know about it, activating background language. Second, learners think about what new things they would like to learn about the topic and write them in a middle column. They could write them as questions, for example, to be answered afterwards. And these first two columns are completed at the beginning of the unit or project. And the final one, what I have learned, students look back at the questions and see which can be answered, and also think about what other new information or skills they have learned during the unit or the project. And it is very important to find time to do this and make it a habit as well. You can see here on the slide another option. Another option is to give learners specific objectives written down, and they reflect on the success of their learning in the areas given to them. In this example, from the course book, they refer to the target language in a particular course book unit, but you could include skills or learning strategies as well. They are written like can-do statements, which is a positive way of students thinking about their own learning in terms of what they are able to do. What can also be included in the end is a summing up stage where students either talk to the teacher or peer about what they have learned and could write a short paragraph to summarize their learning. Basically, the questions learners could answer through self-reflection are: what have I learned? How successful is my learning? What's next? And here in this what's next, they think of a personalized action points. So this particular example is if they found the vocabulary objectives very easy to achieve, perhaps they could think of ways to extend their knowledge or of the related vocabulary. Or if some students still feel unsure about comparing two things, they could do some further language practice activities. So this final point, first, what have I learned? Second, how successful is my learning? And final, what's next? Very often we omit this what's next step. We think like, okay, we closed this subject, we go to the next one and we move on and on. But what's next makes a wonderful transition for students to the next topic as well, and allows them space to reflect more on the topic they've learned. Another activity, this is also an idea that can be used with a project work in order to keep students focused on each stage of the project, and help them identify and reflect on the objectives of each stage of the project. One of the challenges of project work is keeping learners focused on the task and use as much as in English as possible to complete the task. And by using this at the beginning and the end, each stage of the project, learners see the importance of the process, not just to product of the project work. And this is something that we were talking about, that the process, the work that is done is much more important than just the product that students receive in the end. So how it works. Before students begin the task, they first reflect on the language and skills they will learn, that they will need to learn to complete the particular task. This is an example from a short filmmaking project. When focusing on the areas they will need to use, this is the moment for the teacher to feed in language they can use, for example, phrases and expressions for suggesting ideas and agreeing or disagreeing. At the end of the stage, learners reflect on how successfully they carried out the skills in the checklist and evaluate themselves. Some skills will be repeated in later stage of the project. So if they feel they could do this skill better, they will have an opportunity to do so during the later stage projects. And we can refer to these objectives as success criteria. Tips for writing success criteria. It should be limited in number and written in language students will really understand. Okay. Uh, for now, if you have any reflections before we move on, I will just check what's going on in the chat. Oh, great. Everybody is agreeing and thinks it's a good idea. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, Quick Minds unit has I can do statements. Exactly. And actually all the Cambridge materials include these reflection boxes or reflection charts in their courses. And we are moving on. We are moving on to critical thinking. Yeah, this is the example of evaluation. Critical thinking. We said earlier that by thinking critically, learners think of themselves, which means they are better equipped to make decisions about their learning and reflect critically on and evaluate the success of their learning. We can look for opportunities in the classroom to encourage critical thinking and therefore think more about their learning and understand their learning better. The more our learners can think for themselves, the more autonomous they will be. So, developing critical thinking. In this area, what do effective learners do to develop critical thinking? And that's again for you to type in the chat. Analyze, check information. Compare, evaluate. Okay. Why questions? Questioning. Ask questions. Ask questions. Okay. Thank you very much. The answer here is very simple. Critical thinkers, effective learners in critical thinking are always thinking. And um, I was very happy to have this on the slide and to have the confirmation from my colleagues about this idea because I'm now studying at the university as a PhD student in philosophy, in culture studies. I'm making research on performativity, students' performance, teachers' performance, and so on. And to be successful, you have to be always thinking. And thinking is what really separates us from, as a humankind, identifies us as a humankind. This thinking and ability to reconcile the good from evil is most probably, no, no, not most probably, it is fundamental for being a human. So critical thinking is a very critical life skill to be a human. All right, let's move on a little bit. The questions we ask. Those of you who wrote asking questions, those of you who wrote uh, uh, analyzing, evaluating are, of course, everybody is right. But again, critical thinking is first of all about thinking, and thinking is always about asking questions and questioning everything. So thank you very much for your answers in the chat. I feel super inspired that we are on the same page in this. So the questions we ask, the types of questions we ask can influence the range, length, interest, and quality of language our learners produce. For example, we can ask questions about images that get our learners not only to think about what they can see, but to describe what is in the picture, for example, but also what they think or wonder. In other words, to imagine, consider, and reflect on themes and issues relating to this picture. These questions require more thought from learners and will improve their general thinking skills. So, what they see, what they think about, what they wonder. And this is about the picture. For example, this is one of the typical pictures that we can find in the course books, and we ask students questions. What can you see? What are they doing? These are most probably the questions that course book already provides. And these questions are fine, but only work on what the students can see in the picture, fairly limiting and predictable in terms of language production, describing clothes, colors, materials, positions, genders. We could almost say there is a right or wrong answer, and we pretty much know that our students are going to say to answer the questions. Like, what can you see? Oh, I can see people. What are they doing? This one is sitting, this one is bending, this one is sitting on other person's shoulders. And there is, let's be honest, not much interest in answering such questions because the answers are quite obvious. Uh, but how about taking them beyond what they can see? To encourage more thinking and longer turns of more meaningful interaction, we can get students to consider or reflect on ideas related to the picture, which requires learners to use their imagination or evaluate or consider what they know about certain topic. So we need to design questions that do this. Choose two people. Imagine the conversation. What are they saying? Look outside the picture. What can they see? Those students are looking different directions. What do they see? Or why are they there? And some of you have has written the why questions. Why this is going on? Whatever is going on in the picture. What is the reason? We can ask questions that get learners deepening their thinking skills by comparing, evaluating, ranking, putting things in order, and etc. And choose one of the people in the picture. In what ways are you similar or different to this person? Or how does this particular person in the picture compare to that particular person in your personal life? These are the questions that take students a little bit beyond the language and beyond their knowledge. And of course, it involves creativity, but very much it is about critical thinking to see the bigger picture and to analyze and to compare. Now, moving on, there is such thing as a sense of achievement. Another way we can encourage learners to make links between ideas and produce longer and more meaningful interaction is to add specific number or a time limit to discussions or the tasks. If I ask my students the first question, why do people do extreme sports? Here it is. They might just answer because they like it. They will have completed the task with a very limited answer. However, by adding a specific number, we can encourage the interaction to last longer and also give them a sense of achievement as they complete the task. Think of 3 or more reasons why people do extreme sports. So when we specify things, we give more space for students to think. We can add the or more so as not to restrict more abled learners to only 3 reasons. Like, think of minimum 3 reasons, or think of 3 or more reasons. Time limits also help teenagers to focus on, here we go, to focus on what they do, and they create a feeling of challenge within the task, which if they complete also gives a sense of achievement. And this is an example of online timer. You can find it on down here. You can see the link. This is classroomtimer.com. Very, very simple thing to use if you're working online or if you have a whiteboard in your classroom. So, sense of achievement, specific number, specify the question, give the time limit, and this will add the challenge and broaden students' space for work. Now, another one. How much time do we have left? Not much. Okay. Uh, Another one would be train students' brains. So effective learners train their brains. Brain training activities are a great way to encourage learners to improve their ability to observe and understand the world around them. And they can help improve overall memory skills, and they can help learners understand their preferred learning styles, considering their attention, considering their imagination, and so on. So students train their brains. And independent learners need to be observant if they are going to think for themselves. This is a relatively easy way to improve learners' memory skills using pictures. Simply show an image for a few seconds and get learners to look at the image in their course book for a few seconds, and then you take the image away or ask students to close their books, and then talk to their partner and discuss as much as possible they remember about the picture. You can use slightly odd or unusual pictures like this one. They look at it for 20 seconds and then you give them the following task. So now you look at this picture for 20 seconds. What was in your picture? Very simple. Balloons, vegetables. Can you be more specific about the vegetables? Or the colors? Fields, okay. Oh, someone saw broccoli. Nature in balloons. Hot balloons in the shape of different vegetables flying over the fields. Thank you. Flowers, plants, sky, avocado, onion, apple, broccoli, onion, garlic. Ah, this is so interesting how we see very different things. Wow, 6 potatoes. Someone counted things. Sorry, who's this? Elena. 6 balloons, multicolored fields. Wow, you are super observant students. Thank you very much. Let's have a look again. Sorry. Yes. Uh, and now to reflect. The main objective with this type of activity is not to extend our vocabulary or fruits or vegetables in English. By the way, things I saw in this picture was an apple and a strawberry. That's funny that everybody emitted fruits. Maybe because it's winter, I don't know. But yeah. Uh, and it's not about that. It's not about developing vocabulary. It's to improve their memory skills and powers of observation. These activities are fun, motivating, which can be used at any point in the lesson to get students focused and wake up their brains. And you can flash pictures very quickly or show them from different angles or topsy-turvy or things like that. About topsy-turvy, you can give instructions upside down. And you could show things like that to get students' brains working. This is a fun way to give short instructions and train students to see familiar things from a different perspective. Teens like the element of the unexpected too. So perhaps I have a problem with this word today. Perhaps. Okay. Not something. This is not something you would do in the class all the time, but from time to time, it can be really effective. I hope you all read what is written here. Ola, thank you very much for the transcription. That's very nice of you. Perhaps, perhaps, perhaps. I don't know what happened today to me. Maybe it's because of a lot of speaking to Italians. I just uh, picked up some funny dialects. Okay. Um, Puzzles, anagrams, codes. These are all the things that students might enjoy to recycle the language. They can choose their favorite ones and they can actually make their own puzzles to share with each other. And developing critical thinking. Again, the final thing, effective learners solve problems. This is something these days very relevant to my life. Like whenever I have a problem which looks unsolvable, it means that I didn't think critically enough when the problem started emerging. And being critical is super important to solve the problems, and solving problems is a huge part of being critical. And let's have a look at this activity. Here is a crow. And here is a problem. We have a crow. Crows are known for being extremely intelligent birds. They are known for their problem-solving skills and also amazing communication skills. For example, when a crow encounters a mean human, it will teach other crows how to identify the human. In fact, research shows that crows don't forget a face. So back to the problem. We have a crow and we have a nut. Now, crows love nuts, but there is a problem. They don't have access to a nutcracker, and even if they did, they wouldn't be able to use the nutcracker because they have wings. That's obvious. So how do they crack open the nut without a nutcracker? How do they solve these problems? And here we can get our learners to solve the problem using think, pair, share. Think, pair, share means that in the think moment, we give students individually a chance to reflect on the problem and think of ideas for a few moments by themselves, so become more autonomous by thinking for themselves. So we ask them not to shout out the answers right away because they've seen something, but to think about several ways. Pair share, then students pair up with another learner and share their ideas. So we are giving all students a chance to think of ideas for themselves and then share ideas. We can encourage them to evaluate each other's ideas constructively by adding the final task to select the best idea from their list to report back to the class. So before presenting, shouting it out right away, we give them time to think individually, we give them time to share with the partner, and participants think of some ideas and then share in the chat or front class the most effective ones. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Think of 3 or more ways the crow can eat the nut, not just one way. Then share your ideas with a partner and choose the best one. These would be the instructions. And yeah, most probably a lot of you already answered something in the chat or have seen this wonderful National Geographic video on your TV or Discovery Channel video. But this is what the crows actually use to solve the problem, traffic lights. Did anyone have a traffic light list in their ideas? I will have a look. Cars and buses. Yes. Yes, you have almost, but not the particular word traffic lights, but still the idea is the same. So if students, then you give time for students to reflect on how they might use traffic lights to solve this problem. And then you might show them the video and photo of how exactly this is happening. And moving on, this is a part from the book. So students might read this text, and before that, they already have their own ideas. I will briefly show you what's with the collaboration. So developing collaboration. Effective learners pool ideas and work together. For example, in the same activity, we might ask students to work on this thing which I call the carousel of ideas. How it works. Students sit in a group of 4. They all have a big poster with these 4 triangles, and this text is about Australia, and all of them are working on different ideas. And then they spin the carousel. Of course, it has the time limit. Then they spin the carousel with their ideas at the table around. They spin it 90 degrees, and they get familiar with the ideas of other students, add their ideas, and then in the end they have a full poster of ideas before they go to reading the particular text where these 4 points are revealed. So another one, effective learners learn from each other in terms of collaboration. This is very similar to IWK model. I know this, I don't know this, and I would like to learn this. This one is about the range, how much I know and how little I know about different things. And they have this continuum of ideas, then they share with their partners and teach each other about those things that students know the best, and so on. And in this peer teaching, we can develop collaborative learning strategies and encourage learners to be more actively involved in their learning and take more responsibility. So we have definition cards. Teacher prepares definition cards, puts the definitions from the course book in the individual pages or post them up around the classroom walls, and then we have, for example, this definition does a lot of exercise. Then we divide students into A and B, give them the worksheet or get them to copy into the notebooks a list of words they they have to find the definition of. Students move around the classroom and look for the definitions for their words and write them down on the worksheet. Then in the third part, you regroup the students so that new groups have at least one student A and B and C. Students teach each other, each a student teach each other their words, and then they copy down the definitions from each other. And in the final point, the teacher leads on some game style activities to check that all students have understood the words. Yeah, this was learning from each other, and listening to each other and giving feedback is really important. When students uh, work on the writing activities. For example, in this particular task, we can see similar idea that was used in the reflection activity that we talked about in the previous part, learning to learn. Here we have the smiley faces. Learners are given specific things to focus on when giving feedback to their peers. First, they read a model and some example feedback given by one of the students to get an idea of what to do, and then they apply the same feedback criteria to their partner's piece of writing. In this exercise, we encourage students to reflect on learning and decide what should happen next in the learning process. And this kind of activity encourages them to take more responsibility for the learning and work more independently together. Here, use your answers in the checklist to tell your partner what you like and what they can improve. And this is about feedback on your partner's learning, and this will help your partners, help your students to make feedback on their own learning. We don't have much time, unfortunately, but giving giving feedback, it is important to listen, and if students listen to each other, they it means that they are interested. But sometimes students are not very interested if they don't have the particular task. And so they might prepare the questions to the presentation that they might hear from other students. And while they are listening, they might need to write down 3 more questions. Or you might ask them to write down what surprised them the most, or things like that. Now, what we've learned. We have looked at how developing the life skills of learning to learn, critical thinking, and collaboration can contribute to developing learners' autonomy. We have seen that they are not mutually exclusive, but do overlap and can be developed at the same time through certain activities. We have also seen that developing learning to learn skills will enable our learners to become more aware of their learning preferences and strategies that work best for them, and take control of their learning. We've learned that by thinking critically, learners think for themselves, which means they are better equipped to make decisions about their learning and reflect critically on and evaluate the success of their own learning. And by the developing of effective collaboration skills, learners are taking an active role in their learning, and they learn how to work together, learn from each other, rely less on the teacher, and become independent learners. And those are only 3 life skills, which you can find in the Cambridge Framework for Life Competencies. And for now, I will ask you to type in the chat, which 3 ideas would you most like to use with your learners? While you are choosing 3 ideas that you would like to use in your classroom, I will answer a few questions that I can see here in the chat. How to make to listen to each other if they are not interested in. Uh, that's a good question, and it's a very complex question. One of the ideas I told you is that students have a task not to just listen, but to listen with a reason. Like students need to listen to find 3 things that were surprising for them in the presentation of other students. And in this case, those who present will need to take care to surprise their peers. And you have to talk through this in advance, of course, like 3 surprising things, or ask very specific questions, like not just how did you prepare your project and things like that, but uh, find to ask students to find what was interesting for them, and it should be talked through before you do it. Okay. Maybe we have one more hour, not to be in a hurry. I'm sorry, but we have 1 hour webinars. We already have 1 hour and 10 minutes, and it's actually almost the end. Now it's answering the questions time. Okay, thank you very much for your desire to use these ideas I've shown you. Thank you. Okay, so this actually leads us to the end. All the examples were taken from the new course, Own It. This is a 4-level British English course, and I will just show you a little bit um, what it is about. This is the course that develops students' autonomy, and this is the main aim of the course. There are specific learn-to-learn pages. You can see here different strategies of learning. And this is the course for lower secondary students with a lot of projects. And every unit includes a project. There is a project book for teachers, and there are a lot of global cultural topics in this book. There are a lot of videos. And there are different tasks for mixed ability classes. You might find them at the end of the course book, and also in the teacher's resource bank and in the teacher's book. There is an ultimate digital package where students can plan, present, practice, assess, collaborate, motivate students, and so on. And all of this is in one place on Cambridge One platform. Students' book is built in this way that we start the unit, we explore it, we use it, we voice it, and we own it. And that was the topic of our webinar. And yeah, you can see a few pages here. This is a very colorful well-designed course with very specific design of all the sections, like learning to learn section, reading section, writing, speaking, and so on. So it is very user-friendly, let's say. There are cross-curricular projects like English and sports, English and biology, and other subjects. There are reviews everywhere. Here you can see fast finisher tasks at the end of the book. And there is students book, workbook, and digital tools like Practice Extra, Collaboration Plus, and students resources on the Cambridge One platform for students. For teachers, there is a teacher's book, project book, digital tools as Presentation Plus, Collaboration Plus, Teachers Resource Bank on the Cambridge One platform. Teacher's book is super comfortable because it includes pages from the book with all the tips, ideas, and plans for the lesson. And project book also involves all the steps of the project making in one resource. And if you want to learn more about the digital tools and the course itself, I will be happy to tell you more. And please don't hesitate to text me here, email me. You can see my email address. Email me, and we will organize webinar or something like that for you, your school, your teachers, or some of the schools. So we are open for any kind of cooperation. And yeah, if you're interested in the course book or in more professional training, in receiving certificates for some specific topics, we can do that for your school. Thank you very much. My name is Tatiana Shalepko. I'm Cambridge ELT consultant for the Linguist LLC. You can see my phone number. Please call me anytime, almost, better in the first part of the day. And yeah, this is the official distributor of Cambridge University Press, the Linguist Company. You can see the phone numbers that you can call if you are ready to order or if you want to learn more about our special offers for schools. Thank you. If you have any questions left, I will be happy to answer now. Oh, and yeah, if you are interested in some webinar for your teachers, really text me here or just call me from Monday, and we will do that as fast as possible. Could be offline, Olha, for you, anything. Could be offline. Okay, thank you very much. There are so many wonderful words from you. Thank you. Okay. Thanks a lot. And you remember that you will receive your certificates in around 5 days after this webinar. So please don't email me if you are interested in super fast certificate. We need time to generate all of them with your names. And you will receive the letter, the email to the email address that you registered with to this webinar. Thank you very much. I'm leaving you here. Have a great weekend, and thank you for joining on Saturday.